right. Hello, everybody. We're having a treat today. I am Alicia Buss, coming to you from Global Resources for Men. Today, I have the great privilege and honor of connecting you with Greg Barwick, originally from Australia, but he is hanging out with us here in America, in Los Angeles. He is the founder of the Brazen Brotherhood in Australia. He is a speaker, a teacher, and so much more. Today, he's going to talk to us about the importance of movement for men, both like emotionally, physically, spiritually, and how important it is for us to draw wisdom from our forefathers for men to be supported in being the modern man today. And of course, his really cool forged method. So, Greg, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Lovely to be on your show.
You're welcome. So, yeah, let's tell the audience a little bit more about you and why is men's work so important to you?
Yeah, well, just starting with my story, where it all began for me is around the age of 25. And I had grown up in a religious upbringing. So my personal development was always really important to me and wanting to be the best of myself, understand myself on a deeper level, and really delve within myself. And by the age of 25, I had ticked all the societal boxes. Like I pretty much had my house paid off. I had a wife. I had moved my way up within my job, which was a really good paying job. I had the company car and all the pieces that I thought that I should have had, and yet there was something still not right within me. And I saw it coming for about a year, but I ended up going into this spiral of thoughts and emotions and really getting lost within my own internal world. And it really made me realize, and it gave me this blessing early on of like all these things that I was told that I wanted or I thought I wanted actually wasn't it for me, and that there was another whole pathway available for me. And at that time, yeah, I had a bit of a mental emotional breakdown within myself. And I went through the mainstream psychology and psychiatrists and tried all the different methods. And they personally, for me, were a good first step. But I found that I plateaued in terms of my own growth and my own development and my own recovery from what I had just been through. So this is really where it started. This passion of wanting to work for men is I didn't have those tools during the time that I needed, and I had to go on the next decade worth of journey to gather all the different pieces, learned about my mind, learning about meditation and becoming the watcher of thoughts and emotions that I wasn't my thoughts and emotions, learning about my nervous system and how I stored past traumas and energy in my nervous system that I needed to learn how to first regulate myself, but then also discharge and release old traumas. And as I went along my journey, I started to see other guys because I had been there myself. Even though they were smiling on the outside, I could see something deep within them and saw that they were in a similar place to where I was at. And it felt
Yeah.
like the natural next step of when you receive something, a blessing and a second chance of life, and like you get this beautiful, fresh beginning. It's like, what else is there to do but to share this? This was became the most fulfilling thing for me to do is to continue to work on myself, but also to see the value in what I had learned and to start sharing those people that maybe were only 1 or 2 years behind me. But and over the journey, I've realized the importance of continuing to share as we grow, finding places to be able to share um, as myself, but as men to take that bit of a leadership position as a natural role of being a man to be able to pass on the wisdom that we know. Because also, as I keep growing, I realize that where I'm up to now, I can almost not relate to that 25-year-old Greg that had all of that wisdom for that particular stage. And I'm so glad I've passed on
Mm.
those gems that I had because right now I don't have those same tools. I've got new tools. I've got new ways of seeing life. I'm working in a different place. I'm supporting people in a different way, but seeing this value of continuing to pass it on. So this is, yeah, my mission, my passion is men's work is supporting men to grow, to realize and to fall in love with being a man again because I feel on some of the deeper levels of what I went through, I was afraid of being a man and what it meant to have this power within myself. I was afraid of the more of the sexual sides of myself as well, coming from a religious background. A lot of that was repressed or made wrong. Um, and was coming out through watching more pornography and things which I was super judgmental about. And
Sure.
yeah, it really made me realize a lot of what I had gone through was just so prevalent in society, so many guys, and obviously the suicide rates were massive. So it's led me on this journey to
Yeah.
continue to develop and support and to the point now, and we'll speak a little bit more later, of Forged, which is the vision of and what has been built over the last couple of years of taking everything that I've learned on the journey and the brotherhoods that I've created and these powerful tools that we've used out in the desert on these deep immersions and bringing it more into accessible tools that guys can use in their everyday life. That if they're wanting to build a business, they're looking after their family and they're doing all the things that they love, and still they're looking for that deeper level of self-development and spiritual meaning in their life, that they've got these tools they can tap into specifically through their exercise. So yeah, that brings us up to today, living in LA, and LA for me is a continual expansion of like, yeah, continuing to stretch myself and stepping into a new demographic of people who are playing life in a really big way. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And then this is your first time coming to America, right? From
Yeah, correct.
Australia?
Yeah, first time in America. Yeah. So very
Did you
different.
feel,
Well,
yeah, I was going to say, like, what has your experience been in the Australian men's group to the Americans men's groups? Like, have you gotten a chance to integrate more there? Like, I feel like in the last 5 years, the men's groups in Australia have just like exploded in all the best ways. The movement has really taken off.
yeah, yeah. I suppose I'm still pretty new into America, so I don't have like a broad range of like experiences with different men's groups. And I know LA, and I've been hearing more and more that LA is a very specific space in America too. But something that I'm really drawn to in American men is their ability to be able to speak their truth, and they're quite bold about it.
Mm,
Um, and for Australian men, I feel the demographic, at least I was working with back then, of course, we draw in different men that need different things because we're all different. But
absolutely.
that those men in Australia that I've been working with more are ones that are looking to share their voice more and to expression. So it's been a nice polarizing of dropping in with the men here. And I feel wherever we go, we've got something to be able to share with each other. And there's like a crossing over of different gifts and talents that we have. So I feel like the men in each of the cultures have different things to teach one another. And it's a beautiful coming into this
Absolutely.
space and being able to receive this, and also valuing what I've got to bring and bringing that into the space of more of the deeper listening and other sort of attributes that Australian men sort of, at least within my demographic, within my circles, hold. So yeah, it's been a great journey. Always opening and learning.
That's fantastic. I'm like, oh, so many fun things to get to talk about. Remind me, what territory are you in Australia?
South Australia. So Adelaide is the
In
capital.
Adelaide.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on. Yeah, it's so interesting to me. Like, I love talking to people all over the world and the different cultural perspectives, right? And like how we look at other cultures. Because my personal experience with Australians is that they tend to be more charismatic than Americans.
Mm.
And I love that about Australians. Um, and so to me, I would have thought that that would translate into them feeling like they have more of a voice, right? But sometimes when we're being charismatic, that can be us like playing into an environment, like into a role, and that's not necessarily representative of how we feel on the inside and us feeling empowered to have a voice.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose, yeah, there's everybody's got their own sort of coping strategies of how they think they need to be to win love in the world. And I suppose this is
Yeah.
one of the big parts of men's work, is peeling back all those layers of how we think we need to be or how we should be as a man, and finding out who we are as an individual, and how that expression comes through us in our own unique manhood. That there's not really one way to do it, but it's like our most powerful like transformative self, our most radiant self, is when we're in alignment with our own nature. And it's beautiful to see this in men's work, right? You're in a group of men and they're all so different. Some are
Yeah.
the big guys that we might sort of more translate to like, powerful masculinity in the mainstream of like the big bulky dude. And sometimes they're the softest guys. And what you can learn from them is around the surrender and the listening. And sometimes the smaller guys with more of like the athletic frame, and they're the guys that maybe more have the direction and the focus. So it's like every single man is beautiful to see how it comes through him uniquely. And this is the power of being around men that are working on themselves, is each brother has a transmission of what masculinity can look like, brought through in a man in a pure way. And it's different across the board. But yes, it's that same sort of feeling of the men that I feel have really done that work and gone within themselves. There's this like this benevolent energy to them, of one of
Yeah.
wanting to care for themselves, but also to create something around them to make their environment safer and more beautiful for everybody. And it's beautiful to see that in so many different forms, expressed in so many different ways, and to really open the mind of like, there's not one way of doing life as a man, but it's really about us forging and finding our own way. And of course, it's a lot easier to do that when we are doing that with a group of other people and feel like we're not alone in it, right? Allows us to stretch further.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that message so much. Like what I keep hearing is what you just said, and then also about the gems that you had when you were 25 and how you were able to give those over, pass them along, and then like being in a new stage of tools at 35, right? And how important it is for us to have an abundance mindset and understand that none of us have all the answers,
Mm,
right? And having a beautiful network of human beings in our sphere that we can refer people to, and honoring that different personalities, different cultures, different life experiences are going to resonate with different people and their different facilitation styles and their own personal story that they bring through that, right? So that we
absolutely.
can all be open-hearted and understand that we all have our unique life experience, zone of genius, talents, things that we get to bring forward as that representation that you're saying of like what masculinity looks like for each of those men.
Yeah.
And that's what creates the beautiful tapestry of life, right? Like the
Mm.
color and exuberance of each of us as human beings to come together.
Yeah. And I feel like there's this another level of like when we can own our particular story and make it mean something of blessing for ourselves and another. Like there's a
Yeah.
whole transition there of life becomes a completely different journey. And you know, there is an importance of qualifications and going through and studying and learning and developing in this way, but also simultaneously we're having this lesson of life. And we're really listening and we're going through our journey and picking out the wisdom, the gems, and releasing the parts where we've maybe seen the situation in disempowering ways and see it in more empowering ways. There's so much juice and power in there to be shared. And like I'm a real purist in this way of like we've been brought onto into life to live our journey, and our journey is like a precious gift that we've been given, that if we can claim it and see it as so, then we amplify ourselves as a creator and as somebody who can walk life in a very progressive way, and also we become an inspiration for those around us. Because yeah, we all have this path anyway that we've had to walk. Some things that we're grateful for, some things that we're like, oh, I wish I had done things differently. But yet, in the learning and the growing from that, the present moment is all we ever have. And when we can take the past and make it mean something powerful in the present for ourselves and make it a driving force to give us indication of like what's next for us, because I believe our past has sort of these stepping stones and these little cue points for setting us up, like lining us up
Yeah.
for the win in the future. And yeah, this is a beautiful thing that like I like to encourage in my spaces and promote, like to create more leaders and people leading from their story. They don't have to have all the mastery in all the areas, but they're a master of their story. And there's at least,
Right.
usually a dozen people in proximity that are going through the same thing as we've been through. And yeah, they can learn from us
Yeah.
owning our story and sharing.
Absolutely. And it's like the hero's journey. So sometimes people, you have a story and you feel like you might still be in that space of a victim mentality, but being willing to take a look at it and start to transfer the experience, right? Transform it through the
Mhm.
hero's journey into an empowered story that you derive wisdom from, that you can then help others who may be at the beginning of their own.
Absolutely. And just speaking to mine when I was 25, I thought I had everything that I wanted. And yet,
Mm.
like unknown to me at the time, me losing everything or at least experiencing the loss of everything within my own mind and getting to this stage of feeling like I needed to leave everything behind because I didn't see any good in what the past was, at least in that particular stage. It gave me the
Mm.
opportunity to live my life in a whole new, fresh way and to reinvent myself. And if that hadn't happened for me, I could potentially be, I'm 37 now, actually not a little bit on from
So,
35. Potentially, I could be on a completely different path. I wouldn't have had the experiences I've had. I wouldn't have changed careers and changed the way I was inside. And so sometimes, life has a way of bringing things through to us, and our story has a way of twisting and turning in such a way that we would never wish it on ourselves or anybody else. But actually, it turns out to be a beautiful gem, just like waiting for us to realize it. So, yeah.
yeah, no, that's fantastic. So many things. I'm curious if you could speak to men that are new to the space of personal development. Sometimes I've found for myself and other people I've spoken to around the world who host men's groups, men and women alike, um, that getting men together can be a bit like herding cats or mountain lions. And so, what has been something that you can share with people um, to help in that experience of like bridging men into a space that they feel safe to start?
Yeah. I feel, at least in my own experience, I can speak for myself and the men that have had in my proximity, but we're very, and I'm very driven towards like, what am I creating in the world? And whatever I'm focusing on achieving next is super important to me, like very single point focused in the way I direct my energy. And I think what clicked for me with men's work, and I see what clicks for a lot of men, is when they realize that coming together in groups like this with other men that are also looking to evolve in themselves actually speeds up their own personal journey in achieving their goals. And even
Beautiful.
sometimes reframing their goals and working out that that may not actually be what they want, but there's something else that opens up beyond that that excites them even more. I think that's where the click happens, where they see that this is going to add towards what I'm already working on, not like it's subtracting from it, or like time's not being spent in the right places. So I think
For
once
sure.
that relaxes and the pressure and the tension of like I need to be on purpose, and realizing that part of the purpose is being in community and it amplifies us,
Mm.
I think this is an opening to like, okay, cool. Now I've got more tools on my side. And I've got brothers on my side that I get to share the journey with and learn from, but also to share some of the challenges with, learn from the challenges they've been through, and also support them with what I've been through. And it becomes an organic and, yeah, just a lot more fun way of doing the journey, because we're getting to share with other people. So that's, yeah, one of the entry points and the clicking points that I've seen. Yeah.
No, fantastic. And I really appreciate you sharing that. And that really ladders us into the next stage of our conversation, which is, like movement, elevating ourselves. And you're helping men through movement to help them emotionally, spiritually, physically to get into that zone of elevation, right? To
Yeah.
push closer to whatever it is their goals are in life. So tell us a little bit more about your process and why that's important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I myself was actually preparing for a retreat that I was going to be running about 5 years ago. And at the same time, I was starting up to doing my own running myself, like running 5Ks a day and moving through my body. And I've been studying many tools like breath work, NLP, hypnosis, and all of these powerful tools to be able to reprogram the subconscious mind. And I realized that I could actually use these tools, not sitting in a therapy chair or at home working on myself for an hour in the morning and meditating in a chair, which is still beautiful. But for me, I didn't have the time at that stage. And I started introducing it into my running practice. And it allowed me to not only have my exercise and allow my body to keep moving. As an entrepreneur, I'm sitting down a lot, my shoulders are forward, and literally I need exercise just to counterbalance the amount of time I'm spending focus and channeling my energy on the computer, but also the mental
Sure.
tension, right? Of like sometimes at the end of the day when you're focusing a lot, your head just feels like tense and stiff, and the shoulders are tense and stiff. So I was able to start using my exercise to offset my physical body and to strengthen my physical body, but also to release tension and to use these different modalities that I had discovered in other areas, bring them into my exercise to also channel my focus and start to program my mind body system to the visions and the goals that I wanted to achieve. And that's what I did in preparation for this retreat. I was using my exercise to support myself, but also channeling and seeing how I wanted to be within that retreat, how I wanted to present a particular part of the retreat, which was more of the dark masculine energy, which is the part of
Mm.
the masculine that can cut through, can sometimes disassociate to get the job done. But when integrated well, it's done in an artful way that it doesn't bring damage to other people, but still powerful enough to be able to move through those tender times. And that's what I was wanting to invoke in myself. So that whole 3 month period was me running through and using this to embed into my system. And it opened up to a whole new level of realizing this is going to be a very powerful thing in the future, whether it's now or in a decade, that it's going to support men that could really do with some of this work, but they don't have the time, or they're not even interested in going away into the desert or to going studying with monks in some remote part of the world. But they can have direct access to these wisdom and these tools that have been around for thousands of years, and they can directly input it into their life through their exercise on a day-to-day basis. So this is what's inspired me and excited me, because part of my mission is to want men's work to go viral. I've felt the empowerment of it for myself. It's changed my life. And I mean, men's work means many different things, but ultimately to me, to define men's work, it means us having a place to become the best version of ourselves. That's pretty much as simple as it gets to be, just being the best version of us, because when we are, we feel the most alive and excited and fulfilled, but also we have that to give to the people we love, and it becomes the
Yeah,
most loving thing we can do, is to look after ourselves and to do things that make us our best. Yeah.
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing
And
that with us.
I, I can just speak to a little bit more of like the modality and like from the
Yeah,
inside
please
what it
do.
looks like and what it feels like. So we have all, our body is like a hard drive. It's like a computer hard drive where we store all of our memories, all of our emotions from past significant emotional events that we've been through. And without realizing it, a lot of the actions that we're taking on a day-to-day basis, our behaviors, even our thought patterns, are the way we see ourselves, the way that we see relationships and the world around us. It's all based on past emotions stored in our body, and
Mhm.
other people's belief systems as well. We take on a lot of beliefs from our parents, and there's a saying that we are our parents until we're not. And yeah, this network of information stored in our body. The powerful thing is we're not stuck with what we're born with. We're not stuck with where we are at right now. We have the ability to clean out that hard drive and to upload new information that's going to support us more for the life we want to live and the person we know ourselves to be now, to achieve our goals that are exciting our heart the most. So that's the foundation of this practice and of all of this deep subconscious programming practice, is that we can rewrite the nervous system to become the best version of ourselves. And this running modality, the main format I'm using it in at the moment is running, but I'm also integrating into strength training and also fighting training. But with the main modality with the running is us being able to scan through our body and to see where there's stress and tension in the body, just like you would sitting there in like a Vipassana meditation where you're scanning your body and you're looking for, where am I feeling a little bit of fear? Where am I feeling a little bit of tension? And sometimes there's emotion stored underneath our tension and our injuries as well. And through movement, it's quite an organic way of being able to scan and connect with our body, because running brings up all of the imbalances in the body anyway. It brings up where there's some stiffness in one hip compared to the other. And it
Yeah.
starts showing us like where there's parts of us that want to move and open up to that next level. And our body is a reflection of many other areas of our life. When there's stiffness in our body, where there's a certain block within our body, and when there's a block within our mind, it's usually also stopping us externally from expressing ourselves or going into our life fully and living fully, like these metaphors where it's connected on all layers of our being and all layers of our life. So being able to find these blocks within ourselves, just organically, they come up through the movement, just like they would in meditation. Being able to breathe into these areas, being able to use our sound and our movement. These are natural ways, primal ways of discharging and releasing these old energies, just like they would naturally. But unfortunately, a lot of the time when we're stuck in our head, we actually stop our primal system from being able to release these energies. So when we're stuck, we're overthinking things. When we're trying to solve problems, we actually block our natural ability to be able to release emotion from our system. But by coming into this movement, dropping into the body, we're already using those elements of breath, sound, and movement to be able to regulate and move these things through, and to release stress and tension that we may not even know is there, that's hindering our performance, but
Yeah.
also to dig into some of those deeper traumas that have held us back from the past. And that might come through as like suddenly we're feeling like we need to cry in the middle of a run. And we don't know necessarily why, because this is way beyond what the conscious mind is aware of, but it's something that's been stored within us for many years. And sometimes we haven't actually allowed ourselves to get to the state of enough stillness that this could come through. So
Yeah.
this starts to come up, starts to come through. And the beautiful thing is we're already in movement. We're already moving, we're already flowing, we're already breathing, we're already out in nature. You know, I sometimes run barefoot on the beach, so I can discharge and move this energy through my body in such an easy, organic way
Yeah,
that
that sounds
allows
awesome.
me to release these things that could have taken hours sometimes with therapists, or I might have needed to be sitting at home, writing, journaling down and trying to understand myself or doing breath work. But now I'm taking it on the journey with me. So that's the one element of the discharging. But then also, as I spoke about, as me getting ready for my retreat and wanting to run more of this dark masculine energy and wanting to embody this more, setting a soundtrack, something that evokes emotion within me, a particular set of songs that is in alignment with the vision that I'm wanting to create, and to run with that and to see myself in the end completion of whatever I'm wanting to succeed in with that music and running that energy through my body and again and again and again. Like our mind doesn't know the difference between a real or an imagined event. And when we have high peaks of emotion and visualization combined, we end up embedding that into our nervous system for literally changing the way that we see ourselves because our body has already lived it. We've already experienced it. And this is
Mm.
like what mental is fundamentally called mental rehearsal. And all athletes will do this. Like a athlete will sit there and imagine themselves racing around the racetrack in the race car. You'll see them with their eyes closed in their own meditation, literally seeing it and feeling the emotions of the completion. And this is the technique that's been
Interesting.
brought into the running. And once again, the breathing, the sounding, and the movement allows us to power up this energy to the level of we're reaching these peak states of excitement and power. And we're experiencing ourselves like we need to be for that future event to come to about. And we're literally changing ourselves to become that version that's going to allow us to achieve it. So, just to give you a bit of an insight into it, might look like somebody's just running along the beach. And it's like, oh, cool, this guy's doing
Really?
exercise and fitness, but the tagline for Forge is not a fitness program. It's a mental, emotional, spiritual pathway for self development and self mastery through movement.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was coming up for me in those moments as you're expressing all of that was how cool it could be if we created a program like that to increase awareness for kids in schools, like
Mm,
starting that mentality like in elementary school and being able to just ladder it up so we don't have decades of emotions that are being stored in our body, but rather just starting it foundationally there.
absolutely. Yeah. Something that so many of the people that I've worked with over the years and continue to work with are excited about doing. How do we layer this into the next generation and like get it landing in households and schools? So yeah, that's definitely the next, one of the next stages because these tools that we learn and like that I've learned over the years, it's basic human knowledge in a way, like learning how to use our mind and our body for our own benefit rather than it sort of just doing its thing and us feeling at the mercy of our emotions, feeling at the mercy of our thoughts. It's
Yeah.
something that should be taught in schools, I believe.
I just need to figure out where the next PE conference is for
That's
physical
it.
education teachers, and we just need
Yeah.
you to like have you there as a speaker with like your whole program,
Yeah.
get you connected with some curriculum people. It'll be great.
And this is the thing, I think, like by people owning their journey, like if we are to wait for these mainstream systems to change, we can be waiting decades because there's so much policy and everything involved.
Mm,
But the thing
I do
is,
know. I'm a former educator.
yeah, okay. But the thing is, when somebody follows their passion, and as everybody keeps growing on their own journey and they have a passion to do something like this, when we start bringing it into form for ourselves in our own structures and we create these spaces, this is where it starts to change, in my experience, at least through the grassroots and to build
Yeah,
that momentum enough to be able to have the case study to bring into other spaces. So it's beautiful to see these different things emerging from different people across the world, their own movements that are all growing. And men's work and working with our inner world and supporting guys on a deeper level is just going to be something over the next decade that's going to boom. It's needed. And
oh, for
all the signs
sure.
are there of
Yeah,
like massive suicide rates and so many, of these key indicators of things being out of balance and where the
yeah,
support's needed. And of course, the ripple effect that then happens within families when men are not well within themselves.
yeah,
And there's myriad of reasons
absolutely.
why that's the case. But yeah, it's needed and it's powerful to see that in the next while that it's going to continue to keep developing and it's definitely happening all around us. So it's getting behind those people that have those inspirations that are running with it. And it's beautiful to see the community jumping in and giving the support, maybe where they don't have the vision themselves, but they see other people and like they believe in what you believe in and they get behind you and channel people through you and channel the energy to you. It's amazing to see it happening through the grassroots level.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of all that in the grassroots level, I mean, like we have some of the founders of the men's movement and Man Alive and all those different things. So tell us a little bit more about your experience with finding wisdom from our forefathers to
Mm.
help with being the modern day man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to begin with, I've done a lot of work going deep into like the different tribal cultures. They're weaved all through men's work, they're weaved all through yoga and many other modalities that I've studied and gone deep into. Even breath work, is obviously comes from the yoga lineage. And this wisdom of like tribes coming together and then being connected with nature is one key component that has been super important. Realizing as men, there's a need for us to be connected with nature, and it allows us to connect
Absolutely.
with our own nature. Sometimes we're looking for the most complex things to bring ourselves home or to release tension, and it can come through in all sorts of different ways, of like addictions, of wanting to watch TV for some stress release, or also eating food, pornography. But yet nature is always there available to us, and when we allow ourselves to be in nature without an intention,
Hmm.
to allow ourselves just to down regulate, there's a beautiful connection back to self. And I think a lot of the tribes and the forefathers from more of the tribal background that I've followed, they're all connected to nature in a beautiful way. And nature has so many metaphors for us to teach us about ourselves, of when something's out of balance within an ecosystem within nature, everything else gets affected by it.
That's
And it
true.
allows us to see in relationship to ourselves, well, where are there some elements of my life that are out of balance, and how is it affecting other parts of myself? But then
Hmm.
also teaches us relational teachings about where I may be out of balance with my ecosystem, or somebody else might be out of balance with the ecosystem, where we're affecting the larger whole. And fundamentally, how can we come back more into flow so that everybody can rise together? Because this is another beautiful thing about nature, is when it is in balance, it doesn't diminish, it actually grows. Everything grows and rises together. Everybody gets fed, everybody gets looked after. So nature is one beautiful teaching that is this ongoing metaphor through the tribal work. And then more recently, I've been delving deeper into, like, the last 3, 4 years into the warrior pathway, more specifically. And I was really
Okay.
inspired by a lot of women's movement. And whether you're, I'm not sure if the listeners might be aware of it or not, but if you go into some of the more tantric sort of styles of teaching of women's work, there's a lot of women that are following like this divine feminine path, which looking at Mary Magdalene and passing down of Kundalini energy, which is like sexual life force energy, and how do women cultivate that within themselves. And it clicked to me that there is a pathway for men as well that's been used over the decades, just like this Kundalini path had been used for women, of more of this warrior pathway of men being able to use their physical body and training themselves mentally, emotionally, physically through their body, of coming up against challenges, of connecting in to nature, but reaching these states of consciousness through their training that open them up to new levels within themselves. And it just, I just like received the message, and it landed so deeply within me through my own embodied experience of like, of course, men have been using movement as a transformational technology for thousands of years. And that it's only the last couple of generations that we've disconnected from that, with like the industrial revolution and being more off of the land and working for other people, and not having as much connection to ourself, and providing for the tribe in more of those physical ways, through hunting and gathering and things like this. But yeah, it brought me to this point of the importance of movement for men. And stagnancy is where things start to block up. And I know for me, when I feel stagnant in my life, when I feel blocked in my life, like I'm not making progress, the energy builds up to the point of like sometimes feeling like needs to explode. And it's my responsibility to find movement, to get my emotions moving, to get my passions moving, that I don't start to believe my story that I'm stuck and that this is all there is, but I find my way to move into a new way of seeing life. And
Yeah.
this is something that I've seen from this warrior path of men using this journey, using their physicality, using their body to open up new ways of living and self-awareness. So this has been a very exciting sort of powerful and unique journey, because men from all different parts of the world, from the Shaolin monks through to the Roman soldiers, through to different tribal warriors. They all had their own method and modality of using their movement for up leveling, but they also come down to these deep spiritual roots that it's not just about the movement, it's about a spiritual pathway for them, a spiritual journey of awakening and growing. So I've definitely been more and more inspired by that. And it's just been that clicking of like, of course, men have been doing this for thousands of years. We've had a bit of a break, but it's something that's so required and will really, it's not the one thing that's going to fix everything, but it's a part of the puzzle that we get to, I feel as men, we can reclaim, and it can really support our journey to be connected with our body. And like our body is this one place that we're always going to be living in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can I can spend so much time like focusing on the car I have and the house I have and making it beautiful and plush. And it's like, am I putting that same amount of time and energy into looking after this beautiful vehicle that I've been given, this thing that really determines on whether I'm energetic enough to be able to live my dream life and to be the person I want to be for my family and my lover, and to be able to make beautiful love, and also to be able to have that passion at the end of the day to work on what excites me and to travel and to feel balanced enough within myself that I can go and reach out to the other side of the world and explore some sort of maybe lineage or some pathway that's exciting me. Whether that's car racing or whether that's spirituality, whatever it is. But our body is the vehicle that lets us do all of that. And when we look after it, it opens up a whole world of opportunity. And yeah, mindset's powerful. Yes, spirituality is powerful. But if the soul doesn't have a body that's equipped to be able to take those journeys and energetically uphold us through the journey, then I feel like that's a huge capacity that we're losing out on without realizing it. So this connection of man to his body, man and machine, and seeing our body as, I'm not my body, but I've been blessed with this beautiful body, and I'm going to be the caretaker of it and look after it the best way I can, so I can share the journey with my body and go and do things in this life that are extraordinary and that blow my mind, and
Yeah.
open up, a very different and unique way of living. This is the connection of what I've taken from warriors and explorers and the men of old. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that so much. I think that something we've really lost that people are struggling with is the rite of passage. And that's definitely along the path of the warrior,
Mhm.
right? And being able to have that awareness of like being a warrior takes discipline, it takes resiliency, and people are really struggling with both those things in today society.
Mhm.
And so being able to bring back that path of the warrior and being able to take any sort of like the negativity or taboo nature around like what some people think of the warrior, right? The violence and potentially recklessness that some people assign to it can be really healthy for our society to honor what the path is
Mhm.
versus the projection of the different dangers that people may associate with it.
Absolutely. And when we speak about like martial arts is about, yes, fighting and being the warrior, but also the other side of martial arts is the arts, being connected
Right.
in with oneself, the slowness and the stillness and the centering of oneself, the finding of oneself. And ultimately, as I've gone through my experience and I've been sparring in different Muay Thai gyms across the world, in Spain, in Bali, in Australia, in America here, I've been training down on the beach as well with some guys. And some of these men are the most grounded and peaceful men I've met outside of the ring, because we have a space to express those parts of ourselves and a space to be able to work with those energies that are inside of us anyway, and to learn how to wield these energies in generative ways. They don't just come out left and right and wherever, because we're actually choosing to step in and to face the full spectrum of what it means to be a man, including the powerful parts or the more primitive and animalistic parts. So these men that are training this part also, there's this hierarchy always that plays out on a primal level amongst men, whether we like it or not. We can think that we're above it, but it still happens within our nervous system. Our bodies feel each other's bodies. And having places to express and to play in these primal parts, that's all solved and sorted out in a nice, safe environment, an agreed upon environment. So when you step out of the gym and you meet these guys and you meet them in the community, or even them welcoming you into the fighting gym, they're welcoming, they're open, they don't need to prove themselves because they've already proven themselves to themselves. They already know
For
who they
sure.
are, and there's no need, because usually the dangerous expression is coming through when men are afraid and they feel like they need to be the first one to almost like bring up this front of like being the scary person or being the one to first like sort of say, don't come here because I'm, I've got the way of defending myself. But when you know deep within yourself you don't need to, and that you've got things handled if you needed to, there's no need to try to flex on other people. There's no need to try to prove oneself. And it actually then opens up for us to live much more in that state of generosity and kindness and softness with other men. There's actually more intimacy available amongst men that have gone deeper into their primal and owned those parts of themselves that are very powerful and can be dangerous with the wrong intention. And when they've owned those parts, they come through to be much more softer and welcoming and open, but also with the solid backbone of being able to say yes, say no, set their boundaries, to be able to step into a situation where everybody else might be dysregulated in their nervous system and sort of losing themselves in the situation out of fear. And he's more
Yeah.
balanced within himself because he's trained his body and his mind in that situation again and again and again. Like being across the ring from somebody and getting punched in the face, um, you know, it brings up certain challenges that if you can do this again and again in obviously playful ways and not trying to hurt one another, but in playful ways, we're training our nervous system of like still being able to think and stay centered and stay controlled in a very volatile situation. And this translates to life directly. So I think these are the parts that are missing that people don't really see, of more of that warrior journey of there's so much mastery involved. And yeah, okay, like the warrior can be a destructive force. And sometimes things in life need to be destroyed for new things to grow. But that's only a very small part of the warrior is the destructive force. The rest is actually the peaceful warrior who brings order and protection and a sense of balance within a space because he's so grounded within himself. Other people can feel that energy, and he never has to
Yeah.
lift a finger really. And you feel it in those guys that are walking along the street. Like since getting into fighting more, I see guys that most people wouldn't see, and I go like, "Whoa, I wouldn't want to do anything with him because I can sense his energy, and he's somebody who knows how to handle himself." And it's not the big guys that are the bodybuilders and the huge guys. It's sometimes the smallest, most humblest of people, the quiet ones, are sometimes the ones you need to like look out for because they're the ones that they don't need to prove anything, as I said. So
Yeah.
this is the integrated version of that warrior journey, at least through my experience so far, and why I'm passionate about it and see the importance of it for men because it makes us more whole, full, and like well rounded in our expression and allows us to be all those things that we desire to be anywhere, or at least I desire to be.
I love that so much. My friend, we're coming up with the last little bit of our time. Is there anything else that you would enjoy touching upon before we transition?
Yeah, I was on a podcast just a couple of days ago with a friend of mine, a guy that I've just met here recently, Michael Holt. And yeah, shout out to Michael. He's an extraordinary gentleman. He's going very deep within this martial arts journey. And he brought my mind back to the importance of meditation and
Mm.
meditation being such a key component of like that first step into our work as men. The reason being that our ability to be able to focus and channel our energy is almost everything. And if we can focus and channel our energy, it can amplify everything else outside of us in our life. And it's not something that necessarily our natural world around us, our environment helps us with right now. We've got social media with our phones, which is literally constantly dividing and separating our energy. It goes from one reel to the next, and I know myself when I get stuck sometimes in the scrolling without even meaning to, that I come out the other side and I feel my consciousness like scattered. And
Yeah, for
I
sure.
used to do a lot of meditation back when I was 25. Probably spent about 3 years solid in it and went on big retreats, Vipassana 7-day retreats, and all these things. And I've integrated that more into my life, but I've been reminded of the last couple of months of the importance of my meditation practice and having a practice of coming and connecting back to oneself. And in the most basic way, meditation, to put it into a basic term, it's having a place where there's stillness and silence, we're able to be with oneself, And as the mind begins to wander away, as the emotions start to want to take us on a journey, that we have somewhere that we keep bringing ourselves back to the center, whether that's us focusing on a sensation like our third eye, focusing on our breathing, or it might be in movement where we're running, but rather than our mind letting us just leading us all over the place while we're running and we're not really present with our body while we're running, coming back to the running, coming back to the physical sensation. And the power of every time that our mind or our emotions want to draw our attention away and we bring ourselves back to the center, it's like doing a bicep curl in the gym. This attention, this tool of awareness becomes stronger and stronger, and us being the one who's directing where our focus is becomes stronger and stronger. We get the driver's seat back again. And I think this is it seems so basic, and it's like um, the first thing that many people get introduced to, and I was introduced to, but I'm reminded of like masters master the basics, and that this is a place that there's always more mastery available. As our lives get bigger, even if we've mastered it before, even as, like our lives get bigger and there's more things on that we have to manage. And that's definitely in my case, as there's different businesses and I'm supporting, coaching many different people and running different organizations. It's like, okay, now I need to up the level of my self-care and my support to continue to train myself for the next level of what I need to be to do what I want to do. And so I just bring that in as like coming back to those basics of where are we putting our attention and energy? And if it's
Yeah.
going in a lot of places that we're not choosing, into other people's content on social media, into watching like lots of Netflix and all these things that aren't bad, but how often is our attention being brought there? And those hours and hours and hours upon a week could be channeled into what is going to make us feel most alive and into growing and moving ourselves forward if you're interested in that style of pathway. So there's lots of potential energy there for us to gather with some simple practices as well.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So many free resources as well as obviously like paid groups and different opportunities. Speaking of which, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So best place to find me is Instagram. So if you click through Greg_Barwick on Instagram, you'll see a guy, big beard, white shirt. That's me. Under my links, you can click into all of my programs and everything I'm about. So I do one-on-one coaching, mainly related around business and helping people scale and work their business into something that can serve the world, but also be profitable, because it needs to be both sides for it to be sustainable. And then Forged, which is this movement modality. And I'm doing a facilitation training with this movement modality to teach guys that want to support other men. They might already be PTs, they might already be psychologists, they could be somebody who's already got a modality under their belt and want to continue to expand and diversify the way they bring it through, or somebody who's starting anew and they've been inspired by men's work and they want to be able to keep passing on that flame. This is a place for them to land, get trained up, and to get what they need to be able to start running these spaces and holding guys in their transformation. So
Fantastic. I love it.
absolutely. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we always have one last question at the end of my interviews, which
Mhm.
is who inspires you in the world today?
So there's one guy in particular I've been watching a lot of at the moment, and his name's Ross Edgley. He is a British guy. I think he's probably about 35, and he's holds a world record for swimming around the UK non-stop. So he was doing it in like 12-hour blocks and resting, but he was on a boat and he did the swim consecutively, I think over like 150 days. And the reason he inspires me is because he, number one, like is doing these things and pushing and exploring. Like there's this idea of like we are limitless beings of potentiality, and I'm interested in what is that actually like, not just in the head as a concept, but what's that like in my body, in reality? What does that mean to be a limitless being? And I want to experience
Yeah.
that. And this is somebody who embodies that. But it's not only what he does, it's how he does it. He's doing it in a way that he's sharing it with the world, and he's super playful. He's like a big kid, but in all the good ways, not immature, but playful. He's connected with life. He's doing what he loves. It's clear that he's living his purpose. And because he's doing that, he's making a huge impact in getting people connected with tools and ways of living and ways of seeing life and being as a man that they probably wouldn't have access to otherwise. So he's doing it in an entertaining and fun way through his playfulness.
I love
And
that so much. It
super
sounds like he and
inspiring.
I should be friends.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go check out his work. He's got documentaries and everything of his work. But yeah, I love this integration of his deep journeys is obviously done within himself as a spiritual being, and he's making it mean something on a very tangible level with content that can reach everybody. It's accessible. And I think this is the ultimate evolution is, yeah, to go deep into these journeys and to gather all these wisdoms, these esoteric truths and all these modalities. And how do we make it mean something? How do we make it digestible that people can use it and we can use it and it can become part of our life? And I feel he's holding quite a bit of mastery in that. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that so much. Well, there have been so many jewels of wisdom that have been dropped here today by Greg. I hope that everybody's enjoyed watching us live, or if you're catching the recording later, please stay tuned. We have more amazing people upcoming, one of which is Jessica Gold this Friday at 10:30. So until next time, we'll see you later.
See you
Thanks,
guys. Thank you so
everybody.
much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Do, 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 do.